In order for you to be distracted from something, that something that you're doing has to be relevant and it has to be beneficial to you. That's the reason why someone wants you to be distracted from relevancy so that you can be distracted and for you to focus on what is irrelevant. You have to be doing something relevant to be distracted from something. What are you doing? To me, the way that I see all this Anton Daniel stuff and all of these broke gorillas and these 50s and TIs, do you consider those distractions? I do. You want to know why? Because I saw Soul Train as a distraction from what Black people should have been focusing on, which is organizing. We need organization. We need to focus on organization. And every time you turn around, there's some beef coming up that takes your gifted time and attention off of something that you could be investing in that's going to make the community better. But our people have been conditioned towards drama for so long. This is the reason why the Black community is intellectually and morally bankrupt at this moment, because we are focusing on things that are irrelevant. Now, the way that I was raised up on the south side of Chicago, there was numerous times where I would be walking home from Corliss High School down Kings Drive, and sometimes I would see a little something laying on the sidewalk. There was times where as soon as I approached it, I noticed that it was a body, a corpse. Somebody was dead. So coming up in an environment like that, you don't pause to try to see who is this? Who is this? What happened to him? Now you can do that if you want to be laying next to him. But in Chicago, when you come up in a city like that, and therefore a culture like that, Chicago will teach you how to mind your own damn business. Does it matter who that is laying there? Keep walking. Where you on your way to? I'm on my way home. Well, make certain you get there so that you don't end up laying on the sidewalk dead like he or she. Whatever went down with them that got them there, that ain't none of your business. Keep going. Not too long ago, as a matter of fact, just a few minutes ago, I was in meditation. And in meditation, I was inspired to go back to that area of the video that I had before this one. And by me being a man that is primarily interested in self-observation and self-improvement, that portion of the video helped me understand a big flaw that not only did I find within myself, but those who it's just the whole constructed reputation of the Chicago environment, of how, like I was saying, when you see things like a corpse on the street, the first thing you do is you just keep walking past. And therefore, you come up in an environment that has become so dark that what it does, it prevents you from being inspired to or encouraged to show empathy and compassion for someone, whether they're dead or alive, for the sake of preserving your own life. And that right there reveals in the human being of the effects of the environment, the whole cause and effect of the environment, which is another form of programming. And so what that does in effects to the human being, that causes a person to think of what is called the first law of living, which is self-preservation. But at the same time, that doesn't justify not being able to have empathy or compassion for someone who is dead, or for someone who is suffering, like the guy who was right outside my door, who eventually lost his life because obviously he was somewhere involved in something that he should not have been involved in, and he lost his life. And when I was told the police that I didn't hear anything, I didn't see anything, and see that whole state of being comes from being raised up and therefore programmed in a hostile environment, which imbues this state of the lack of empathy and the lack of compassion for the human being. So the whole thing, this is one of the reasons why Yeshua's message was so important. And this is why I say it was a message of humanity, so that mankind can get his humanity back, so that the world can indeed become a better place. So what is good about self-observation and being able to look back at the way that you were brought up in a specific type of environment, which encourages fear in the human being, so that when things like that transpire, or you come across something that really needs to be resolved, what it does, it makes you afraid. And what that does, that encourages you to think of self-preservation in terms of your life. However, that doesn't help humanity at all. That doesn't help humanity at all. And so what I've noticed about the Chicago upbringing and its culture, I see a lot of people who come from that same environment. Well, you know, the way it is in Chicago is blah, blah, blah. Now we're talking about something that is not good. However, the way that we talk about it, there's an element of pride and boasting there, when it's nothing to boast of, coming from a hostile environment that has allowed to become hostile. And you can't blame the judge and the mayor only for that, because there's gang violence, there's all type of things out there. You have this non-snitching policy. All of these things are put in place to cultivate an environment and a culture which gives birth to a population of people who are afraid, who are self-centered, and lacking empathy for the other human being, which is also a family member and someone's child. So I was inspired to look at that, because going back, you know, would I had done something different? Well, I'm really not a hypothetical person, so I really can't answer that question. I just know that at that moment, the only person that I was concerned about was myself, because that was the programming at the time. Who is this? Who is this? See, in my heart, I was concerned, but considering the way that I was programmed in that particular hostile environment in Chicago, my primary concern was getting home so that nothing like that would happen to me. And that's the programming that makes you self-centered and lacking empathy for the other human being. I mean, it's a very tight spot to be into, considering the programming of the environment. It's kind of it's tough. Now, as unrealistic as all of this is sounding, it's really not unrealistic at all. It's actually the reality that we should be trying to produce on this earth. It's the reality. So, coming up in Chicago and considering the environment of how Chicago is, it's really nothing to be proud of. It's really nothing to boast about. And so, this is why I say self-observation is so important. And when I question myself, if I had that opportunity again, what would you do? And to me, that's unrealistic, because the reality is you can't go back in the past and relive anything. The only thing that I can do is continue to move forward. And if I see someone who is laying deceased on the street, I would do that differently. I would try. Number one, I would call someone to tell them what was going on and to inquire who this individual is. And there's a lot of things that I would do different now that through meditation I was inspired to reflect back on the video, that I may be able to reflect back on that particular moment when I had encountered those things. But simply because, as I said before, and not trying to justify it, but when you come up in a very hostile environment to where everyone has been made so afraid to where you have to strictly lack empathy. It's almost like a rule of lacking empathy and compassion for someone else in order to preserve your own life. However, how is the world going to become a better place if we continue to go down this cycle of self-destruction? Because that's pretty much all it is. It's a cycle of self-destruction. So I would do something different if I come upon some type of situation like that now. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things that I would do different, considering the way that I was brought up in the environment, has this teacher called fear, simply because of the environment being so dangerous that you have to exist in an environment like that. And what that does in effect of the human being, that causes us as a human family not to have any empathy or compassion for one another, due to the fact that we're fearing for our own lives. And so this is one of the primary reasons why I appreciate Yeshua's message so very much, is because if the human family is not concerned of one another, how are things going to get better? Things are not going to get better, because everything, there was a lot that I saw coming up in Chicago to where I knew that the environment was on a decline, morally was on a decline. I saw friends die off, and I saw a lot of things changing for the worse instead of the better. And things would have started changing for the better had a lot of us been programmed to have empathy and compassion for one another instead of standing around watching people waste away because they fell under the influence of drugs and alcohol and things as such. Because I even see that today. You see people who are destroying themselves, and one of the main things that you hear our community always say, oh, that's a grown ass man, that's a grown ass woman. See, this whole grown thing is nothing but it's nothing but an excuse to not care. And so you hear that so much in our community, and it's not helping us. It's not helping us at all. So I just wanted to make this short video about being able to look at yourself and see major flaws based upon cause and effect, and to acknowledge those things so that as you move forward, you won't take that same programming with you, that programming of having no empathy and no compassion for people, and start showing empathy and compassion for the next human being, because that's the only way that things are going to get better in this environment. There's a lot of people going around saying, that's corny, you want the world to become a better place. Of course I want the world to become a better place. I don't see anything corny about that. But as I always say, the only way that the world and the environment is going to become a better place to live, we have to first become better human beings. And the only way that we are going to be able to become better human beings, we have to start with ourselves. We have to look at ourselves and see our flaws, acknowledge our flaws, and make the decision to become better and not stay the same, which is equivalent to becoming worse. So with that being said, everyone have a good evening and stay human.